going to be talking tonight about vision and transformation. So basically, I'm going to be rounding off the whole series we've had. And the series started in July the 7th. So we've come a long way. It's been a long time going through the Noble Eightfold Path together. And then when I've talked about that, I'm going to say a little bit about ritual, why we might do ritual and what it means. And then we'll actually do a threefold puja, as it's called, together. Okay. So I thought we could look back on where we've been. So what we've been studying the Noble Eightfold Path is well, when the Buddha gained enlightenment, not only did he himself gain enlightenment, but he was able to teach other people as well. And the first time that he taught the Noble Eightfold Path. So I think it's very important to him, something that's really crucial to him, a really crucial part of the Buddhist path. And the Eightfold Path is a summary of what it means to practice Buddhism. 8 factors, which if we develop them all, they lead to awakening. So I thought I'd just have a quick relook at what the Noble Eightfold Path means. It was translated from Pali, the language that a lot of the first talks that the Buddha gave was written in a few hundred years after he gave them. So noble comes from the Pali word Arya, and Arya actually just means whatever pertains directly or indirectly to the realization of ultimate reality. So what it means is it's whatever's gonna lead us towards enlightenment. And the word that's really interesting to look at is samyak. So samyak is translated, we're translating it as perfect, so when we talk about perfect vision, perfect speech, it's coming from the word samyak. And sometimes, quite often, it's translated as right speech or right vision. And that can kind of give a slightly wrong impression that it's about either kind of getting it right or wrong, whereas actually samyak means something much more like whole, complete, proper, thorough. So that's why Sangharakshita has translated it as perfect. So I think we could just remind ourselves of the 8 factors that make up the Eightfold Path by looking at the image from the flip chart. Okay, great. So thank you to Edward who took this picture earlier. So you can see that we have, it's listed here as if you do number 1 first, vision, and you go down through all of those and to meditation. But you might well remember from the intermediate course or from the beginning of this that it's more likely, it's more exact to say, it's more accurate to say, we could go back to it actually. It's more accurate to say that what we do is we start perhaps with a sense of a vision, and then we transform our vision through emotion, through speech, and then we go back to a different vision, perhaps, which has been, which is perhaps a more accurate vision or a more inspiring vision, because we've been practicing transforming our livelihood or effort, for instance. I'm just going to quickly run through what those 8 are. So what we mean by perfect vision is it's when we get a glimpse of something beyond us, a glimpse of inspiration, a different way of living, a different way of being. So it's a way of seeing, a way of understanding something that might be quite intuitive, or it might be just quite intellectual, but we think, there must be more to life than this, perhaps. So we get a vision of something else. And then from that, we might flow emotion. So emotion, we really need emotion in life to do things. It's what moves us. What gives us volition. It's the resolve, the desire to do things. And without emotion, we probably won't actually do very much. So the third one is speech. So this is speech that is truthful, kindly, harmonious, helpful, meaningful. And when we speak like this, what we do is we change the kind of atmosphere of our communication and thought. So both for ourselves and for the people we're communicating with. The next one, perfect action, you'll remember, is about following the precepts. And we follow the precepts not because there are sort of commandments you have to follow. We follow them because we see that they're a way of life that will lead to freedom and happiness for ourselves and other people. So you remember that we're talking about kindness, generosity, stillness, simplicity, and contentment. There's a couple of other precepts, but they're covered later on. Then that would move into livelihood. So livelihood is how we earn our living. For many of us, that is a big part of our days and our times and what we do. So that's really crucial for our spiritual well-being. If we're butchering or selling weapons to people, that's not going to help our state of mind, nor is working in situations that really stress us out. So how we earn our living, how we spend our time is very important. Number 6, we've got perfect effort. This is where we work directly on the mind, you could say. So we're developing and maintaining skillful, wholesome states of minds and preventing and eradicating unwholesome states, which is obviously linked to awareness, perfect mindfulness. So this is very much being aware of what's going on for us in our bodies, in our emotions, in our thoughts. An embodied awareness of what's going on for us, but also a remembering of what our aims are, a remembering of what it is we want to achieve, of what we're doing with our lives. And then the last one is perfect concentration or meditation. So working in meditation to bring the mind into an integrated and a concentrated state, which allows us to experience some insight into how things really are, that transforms us. So these 8 factors are like a complete path of our body, of our speech, and of our mind. And they cover the 3 areas that we train in, of ethics, meditation, and wisdom. So we've gone through them over these last 4 months in quite a linear way. But as we stressed in the intermediate course, they do interact. So one way you could perhaps see them is more like a flower. So fantastic. Vicky just made this today. So I've put perfect vision in the middle to kind of give the sense of how perhaps perfect emotion will affect vision, perfect speech will affect your vision, and so on and so forth. But in a way, you might be able to put any of them in the middle. I think if you were working on developing ethical behavior, so perfect action, that would allow others to grow. That would allow your emotionals to grow, your mindfulness to grow. So they all work together. So this transformation that I'm talking about, how might that feel? What might that look like? And I thought we'd just explore some images that are traditional from the path, from the Buddha. And lots of thanks to an order member called Divan, who I've taken these from. Because I guess if you think about a path being 8-fold, it's a bit weird because mostly paths are 1-fold. So a path that leads somewhere. So in a way, I think it is a mixed metaphor. It's a mixed metaphor because it is a path to be travelled, and it's a set of qualities to be developed as well. So the path is about developing the qualities, and developing the qualities is the path. So it's a kind of slightly clumsy concept in a way, but the images can really help. And as I go through these images, you could be thinking, well, which one of these do I really relate to? Which one means something to me? And I've got a lovely quote from Sariputta, who was a disciple of the Buddha, who says, "Some intelligent people understand better through similes what the teachings mean." So maybe all us intelligent people will understand more through the similes. So first of all, going back to the flower, you might say, is the 8-fold path as natural unfolding. So each of those petals is one path of the of those 8-fold path, and each one's very necessary, and each in representing spiritual development. And you could say that a flower in full bloom is a full unfolding of our potential for Buddhahood. So we've got an intrinsic potential, and it can develop. Or you could see it perhaps as a tree as well. The Buddha also talked about maturing like a tree, that gradually we grow through the 8-fold path, through these limbs of the 8-fold path. And it's not something you can force. It occurs naturally when the right conditions are present. So it's not an effort of will. So from this point of view, you would be practicing the each of the factors of the Eightfold Path as required. So you'd be thinking, oh, which of these do I need to cultivate right now, which I'm actually doing quite well at? For instance, you might think, oh, my work is quite ethical, I'm quite happy with my livelihood, but I'm not really sure about my awareness. I could really work a little bit on my awareness. And so what your effort is doing here is creating the conditions for the overall development of your mind and heart. Okay, so a second image might be the Eightfold Path as a middle way. So this comes from the Buddha, and it's seeing the Eightfold Path as a middle way between the life of indulgence and the life of self-mortification. So as I said, once the Buddha had gained awakening, he went to teach some of his former companions what he'd learned. And I'm just going to read a little bit from his first discourse. So the Buddha says, "Monks, there are these two extremes which are not to be followed by one who has gone forth." What two? That which is devotion to indulgence in sense pleasures, which is inferior, vulgar, ordinary, ignoble, not beneficial. And that which is devotion to self-mortification, which is painful, ignoble, not beneficial. Monks, not falling into either of these extremes, the realized one has attained complete understanding of the middle way, which brings about vision, brings about knowledge, and conduces to stillness, realization, awaking, nirvana. And then the Buddha says, and what, monks, is the middle way? It's this Noble Eightfold Path, namely right view, right resolve, and so on. So the 8 petals, you might say, of the flower, the 8 stages of the path. So this is the middle way. So thinking about the middle way actually can help us understand what this path is not. So it's not a path of self-indulgence, because it's really normal for us to believe at some level that a truly satisfying life will come from getting our sense pleasures met. So getting our need, what we see as our wants met, our sense pleasures met. But the Buddha taught that actually sense pleasures are impermanent, they're unreliable, and they can't be the basis of our well-being. But the Buddha doesn't teach that self-mortification will lead to true satisfaction. And at the time of the Buddha, people who were searching for something did do quite a lot of self-mortification, quite extreme. But people still do it these days. You know, people will diet, eat in strange ways, but their bodies, treat their bodies quite badly, really. And the Buddha taught that this isn't the way. So the path's not about the pursuit of sense pleasures, but neither is it about the rejection of the body. So the Eightfold Path includes awareness of the body and right action of the body. So the middle way means development of the body and of the mind together in harmony. So the Eightfold Path is balanced and complete. So that's the middle way. So the third image, which is more of an image, is the path leading to the city of awakening. So this is more like a path. And this is what the Buddha said. Monks, it is as if a person walking about in a wooded wilderness should see an old path, an unwinding old road travelled by people of former times. That person would follow it, and following it would see an old city, an ancient capital city, inhabited by people of former times, a city having lovely parks, groves and ponds, and with a raised mind around it. Then monks, that person would tell their king or the prime minister about it and would say, "Sir, please restore it." And then monks, the kings or prime minister, would restore that city, and after some time it might become prosperous and powerful, rich and populous, as successful as it had been before. In the same way, monks, I saw an old path, an unwinding old road travelled by Buddhas of former times. And what, monks, is this old path, this unwinding old road travelled by Buddhas of former times? It is just this Noble Eightfold Path, namely right view and so on to right concentration. This, monks, is the old path, the unwinding old road travelled by Buddhas of former times. I followed it, and following it, understood the way to end all suffering. So what the Buddha is saying here is that he rediscovered the ancient path to awakening. It's not like he invented it. So I suppose this might create in our imagination, we might have some images about this. We might imagine a track through a jungle. So it's a path that we're making. It's not a path, it's a path that we're making that's taking us to a city. So what does a city represent? I think here a city represents civilization, gardens, beauty in the middle of a jungle. So not maybe the kind of cities that we're used to, which might be quite busy, quite dirty, more kind of a city that is something very beautiful city, a very beautiful city. So a place that's like in touch with the surrounding countryside, but it's an image of civilization. So it's a civilized place to live where human values prevail. And that's what the Eightfold Path does as well. It leads us to a state of civilized harmony. So it's a refuge from the risk of the jungle. It's a refuge from the many scary things that live in the jungle. Okay, so the last image I've got is the path as a spiritual workout. So to understand this image, we need to know a little bit about Nagas. Nagas are creatures from Indian mythology, and Nagas are water-based aquatic serpents and dragons. They're giant snakes, giant dragons that live in the water. Nagas are powerful, they're non-human, they're impressive. And actually Nagas sometimes used to describe the Buddha. So the Buddha said here, monks in the Himalayas, the kings amongst mountains, the Nagas work out their bodies and build up their strength. Having worked out and built themselves up, they plunge into ponds. Having plunged into ponds, they plunge into lakes. Having plunged into lakes, they plunge into streams. Having plunged into streams, they plunge into rivers. Having plunged into rivers, they plunge into the great ocean, the sea. There they come into the full vastness of their bodily forms. Likewise, monks, a monk relying on virtue, established in virtue, cultivating and multiplying the Noble Eightfold Path, fulfills the full vastness of good qualities. I'll say that last bit again. Fulfills the full vastness of good qualities. So what this image is saying, that practicing the Eightfold Path is like a spiritual workout. So we can practice in each area. We can practice our speech, our action, and in a way we can plunge into the flowing waters of our lives, different areas of our lives, on a journey down to where all those journeys end, the ocean. So each of the factors is like a different spiritual exercise. So we might need to build ourselves up. We need to work out, build up our strength, perhaps with our right speech, our right effort, our perfect speech, our perfect effort. And then we can go into another more scary kind of water. Yes. So basically it sounds like they start training in ponds and then they train themselves and they train themselves. So in the end, they can be in the ocean. So, so we can be in the midst of the flowing ocean. So those are the images of the Eightfold Path. And you might think, which one of those speaks to me? And all of them talk about how all the different parts of the path, the different stages or the different petals of the path are enfolded together. We need all of them together. I think an important thing when we're looking at the Noble Eightfold Path is to remember an important aspect of the Buddha's teaching. So ultimately, the Buddha says there's no fixed or permanent self. So it might be better to think that what we're developing are good qualities, a whole range of excellent human qualities, rather than developing ourselves in a fixed way. So this whole range of excellent human qualities will make up the awakened personality together. So I think it's interesting that the last image used here is of the Nagas, because often Nagas in Buddhism represent the deep unconscious energies in us. They live in water, which is a symbol of the unconscious. They're dragons. So there's an idea of them representing deep forces within us. And a really important part of this transformation of the Noble Eightfold Path is emotional. It's emotional. It's engaging our emotions. And that's what ritual is all about, which we're going to do a short ritual in a little while. It's about getting our emotions, particularly our unconscious emotions. In fact, you might say getting our Nagas involved in what we're doing. And one form of ritual we do is the puja. And puja literally means worship, which can sound a little bit concerning, I suppose. I think I first would have thought, why do I want to worship something? That just sounds very strange. But a quote that I've been really struck by comes from David Foster Wallace. And he gave it in the United States at one of those kind of commencement things. I think they're called graduation ceremonies. And I'm going to read it, but I think it's also going to magically appear on our screen. Yeah, Vicky's nodding. So I'll start to read it. So he says, "Here's something else that's weird but true. In the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there is actually no such thing as atheism. There is no such thing as not worshipping. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship. And the compelling reason for maybe choosing some sort of God or spiritual type thing to worship is that pretty much anything else you worship will eat you alive. If you worship money and things, if they are where you tap real meaning in life, then you will never have enough, never feel like you have enough. It's the truth. Worship your own body and beauty and sexual allure, and you will always feel ugly. And when time and age start showing, you will die a million deaths before they finally plant you. On one level, we all know this stuff already. It's been codified as myths, proverbs, cliches, epigrams, parables, the skeleton of every great story. The trick is keeping the truth up front in daily consciousness. So if David Foster Wallace is right, we will worship whatever, whether we want to or not. And so we need to make some conscious choices about what we worship. And for me, the Buddha stands for wisdom, compassion, waking up to reality. And so those are the qualities that I want to worship. So when I'm doing a ritual, a puja, that is what I'm bringing to mind, those qualities of beauty, of deep calm. You will have qualities yourself that you will bring to mind. That might be something to talk about in the groups. Is what is it that you want to worship? And by worshipping, what is it that you want to bring into being more in your life? So we're going to do what's called a threefold puja. We also do a sevenfold puja in Triratna. Those people who are on the retreat over the weekend will have had a chance to do that. But we're going to do a shorter one, the threefold puja, and we're going to include a mantra. So a mantra is a way in expressing, I suppose more musically, the qualities of the enlightened mind. And different figures like the Buddha have different mantras. The mantra we're going to do today is the mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha, because he taught the Eightfold Path. So I think his qualities of wisdom and kindness come out in his mantra. And we're going to have a reading as well, a reading of two of the images that I've read out here, so another chance to hear those. Okay, so yeah, that is perfect timing for us to take a 5-minute break. And if you can find somewhere that you can do a ritual, that would be great. If not, just take a break. We'll come back and we'll do the threefold puja together after a 5-minute break. Okay, so we're going to do a threefold puja now. And what's going to happen is I'm going to read a line, and then and it's going to be in call and response. So everyone will stay muted, apart from the people here in Vajramandala who will, you can join in with them as they respond. And there's just 3 parts to the puja. After the first one, we're going to hear one of those readings again from Emmett. Then we're going to do the second part and hear the other reading again from Siwan. Then we're going to do the final one, which talks about offerings. And then we're going to have a mantra. And this mantra is pre-recorded today. And if you want to, during the mantra, you can make offerings. And if you want to join in with the mantra, the kind of traditional way we do it is that the mantra, we have the mantra twice, and then you join in. Okay. So if you just want to make sure that you're sitting as comfortably as you can. And we'll just wait for a couple of minutes. We'll just sit for a couple of minutes. just to arrive. As I said, the Noble Eightfold Path is an embodied path. So arriving in our bodies, becoming aware of your breathing, becoming aware of the contact of your body with the chair or the cushion. And a sense of us all together, although we're all on Zoom today in different places, a sense of us of a Sangha together, choosing to worship the values of love, of compassion, of wisdom, of joy, of peace, of energy. Choosing to bring to mind the qualities that will lead us to waking up, the qualities of awareness and metta. Threefold Puja. Opening reverence. We reverence the Buddha.
We reverence the Buddha,
The perfectly enlightened one.
the perfectly enlightened one,
The shower of the way.
the shower of the way.
We reverence the Dharma.
We reverence the Dharma,
The teaching of the Buddha,
the teaching of the Buddha,
which leads from darkness to light.
which leads from darkness to light.
We reverence the Sangha.
We reverence the Sangha,
The fellowship of the Buddha's disciples
the fellowship of the Buddha's disciples,
that inspires and guides.
that inspires and guides.
Monks. It is as if a person walking about in a wooded wilderness should see an old path, an unwinding old road travelled by people of former times. That person would follow it, and following it would see an old city, an ancient capital city inhabited by people of former times. A city having lovely parks, groves and ponds, and with a raised mound around it. Then, monks, that person would tell their king or the prime minister about it, saying, "Your Majesty should know that, while walking about in a wooded wilderness, I saw an old path, an unwinding old road travelled by people of former times. I followed it, and following it, I saw an old city, an ancient capital city inhabited by people of former times, a city having lovely parks, groves and ponds, and with a raised mound around it. Sir, please restore it." Then, monks, the king or prime minister would restore that city, and after some time it might become prosperous and powerful, rich and populous, as successful as it had been before. In the same way, monks, I saw an old path, an unwinding old road travelled by Buddhas of former times. And what, monks, is this old path, this unwinding old road travelled by Buddhas of former times? It is just this Noble Eightfold Path, namely right view and so on to right concentration. This, monks, is the old path, the unwinding old road travelled by Buddhas of former times. I followed it, and following it, understood the way to end all suffering.
Reverence to the three jewels. We reverence the Buddha.
We reverence the Buddha,
And aspire to follow him.
and aspire to follow him.
The Buddha was born as we are born.
The Buddha was born as we are born.
What the Buddha overcame,
What the Buddha overcame,
we too can overcome.
we too can overcome.
What the Buddha attained,
What the Buddha attained,
we too can attain.
we too can attain.
We reverence the Dharma
We reverence the Dharma,
and aspire to follow it.
and aspire to follow it,
with body, speech, and mind,
with body, speech, and mind,
until the end.
until the end.
The truth in all its aspects,
The truth in all its aspects,
the path in all its stages,
the path in all its stages,
we aspire to study,
we aspire to study,
practice,
practice,
realize.
realize.
We reverence the Sangha
We reverence the Sangha
and aspire to follow it,
and aspire to follow it,
the fellowship of those who tread the way,
the fellowship of those who tread the way.
as one by one,
As one by one,
we make our own commitment,
we make our own commitment,
an ever widening circle,
an ever widening circle.
the Sangha grows.
The Sangha grows.
Monks. In the Himalayas, the kings among mountains, the Nagas work out their bodies and build up their strength. Having worked out and built themselves up, they plunge into ponds. Having plunged into ponds, they plunge into lakes. Having plunged into lakes, they plunge into streams. Having plunged into streams, they plunge into rivers. Having plunged into rivers, they plunge into the great ocean, the sea. There they come into the full vastness of their bodily form. Likewise, monks. A monk relying on virtue, established in virtue, cultivating and multiplying the Noble Eightfold Path, fulfills the full vastness of good quality.
Offerings to the Buddha. Reverencing the Buddha,
Reverencing the Buddha,
we offer flowers,
we offer flowers,
flowers that today are fresh and sweetly blooming,
flowers that today are fresh and sweetly blooming,
flowers that tomorrow are faded and fallen.
flowers that tomorrow are faded and fallen.
Our bodies too,
Our bodies too,
like flowers,
like flowers,
will pass away.
will pass away.
Reverencing the Buddha,
Reverencing the Buddha,
we offer candles
we offer candles.
to him who is the light.
To him who is the light,
We offer light
we offer light.
from his greater lamp,
From his greater lamp,
a lesser lamp we light within us,
a lesser lamp we light within us.
the lamp of Bodhi shining
The lamp of Bodhi shining
within our hearts.
within our hearts.
Reverencing the Buddha,
Reverencing the Buddha,
we offer incense,
we offer incense.
incense whose fragrance pervades the air,
Incense whose fragrance pervades the air.
the fragrance of the perfect life,
The fragrance of the perfect life,
sweeter than incense,
sweeter than incense,
spreads in all directions throughout the world.
spreads in all directions throughout the world.
Muni, Muni, Mahamuni, Shakyamuni, Sadhu. 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 Muni, Muni, Mahamuni, Sakyamuni Sadhu Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni 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 Sadhu.
Okay, so we'll just sit for a couple of minutes, just taking that in.